There's little doubt that wheelchair basketball gold medalist Darlene Hunter has left an indelible mark on her sport. As a world-class player for more than a decade, she continues to lead and inspire as an athlete, an educator, and first and foremost now, a mentor. I see you're doing a lot of work with the Dallas Mavericks. Darlene, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun to be here.
Hey, Darlene. The last time we caught up and we chatted a little bit, you were sort of referencing whether or not you'd be up for another games. You've been involved in high-level sports now for quite some time, wheelchair basketball, and your first Paralympics over a decade ago. So where are your feelings in terms of this physically and mentally?
Physically, I haven't been in my chair in about a year, and that's been a really different, my basketball chair, it's been a really different experience. And it's been interesting to watch my body change, so I definitely need to get back in it. You never know how quickly, after you're a high athlete training all the time, your body falls apart pretty quickly, I feel like, if you just stop all of a sudden. But it's been a really good time for me just to regroup and see what I really want. I also became the president of the National Wheelchair Basketball Association since the last time we talked, so I have this huge overarching organization that's taking up a lot of time right now. But I am kind of leaning to going back. I miss it. There's some really good girls playing right now. We're going to have a wheelchair basketball women's camp in New York in a few weeks, and so it'll be good to be back with Natalie. We're co-coaching it together and getting the girls in the pipeline again. I'm kind of just feeling it out. So I'm leaning more to going back. I think I have one more games in me, and we'll see what happens. I haven't started training yet, so it's kind of that see what your body does when you come back after a year. But we'll see. It's competitiveness is always there. I think if you're that elite athlete, it's really hard to give it up.
Oh, I know. So after a decade, just out of curiosity, what are some of the prevailing injuries that take place with wheelchair basketball players?
So luckily I think it's because I started racing as a kid and doing marathons really early that my body was really conditioned well because I grew into my body with sports and stretching my shoulders. But shoulders and rotator cuffs are usually the first things to go. Luckily, I don't have shoulder problems. I have had a really lucky time of it, but mine is more of I've broken fingers, sore back, more so that kind of stuff because I have rods in my back doing the sport than it has been my shoulder injuries. We've had a really good strength and conditioning trainer that's been with the USA team for about 45 years now, and she's really good at making sure shoulder maintenance is on the top of the line for what we do, and so we've been really lucky to have her. Katie's done a great job with our sport.
Great. Hey, Darlene, I follow basketball largely on social media to try and see what's going on and how the sports are developing. And I notice, when I look at certain of the groups that, in particular, Europe seems to be particularly aggressive and very frequent about their tournaments. I see tournaments all the time: Germany, Spain, England, the Netherlands. Why does it seem like Europe is a little bit more, I don't know if you want to say on the forefront, but more aggressive about promoting the sport?
So unfortunately for us, because you know how the Team USA is set up, we are not a federally funded program. We are a nonprofit funded by citizens of the United States and people and sponsors who believe in our sport. So unfortunately for us, we're not able to tie into our federal government paying for our tournaments and having that amount of level of play that Europe has. They've done a really good job. USA is the powerhouse of wheelchair basketball and has been for a number of years and decades. We're starting to slow down. They're catching up because they have created this infrastructure and system that is done so well that we rely on our college system to get our athletes up to par. And more athletes are going overseas after college to keep them going for the USA side. But we just don't really have the infrastructure to compete at that level because our funding isn't there. We're all nonprofits. We're all programming, doing the best that we can with what we have. And, we're going through a recession right now and inflation of everything. It's been really expensive in our sport to travel. And so our budget is really not that high. I think everybody thinks that the United States have this $1 million budget per team, and we're really not there.
No, the information is very difficult to come across, really. And if you read, people are under the impression, if you read long enough, that players are getting $50,000 a year to do this and to do that. And that's not the case really at all, is it?
No, I wish it was that. I think on average, there's a place on the United States Olympic and Paralympic website that you can go and look at what every organization is for what the USOPC is giving us for our NGBs and our national teams. Like, that's public information, so you can pull up any sport and see how much money NGB or USOPC is paying our NGBs. On average, for wheelchair basketball, I would say our athlete stipend for the whole year is probably between $4,000 and $6,000 for the whole year. We are really required to have a full-time job if we want to have a house and maintain a lifestyle. So for us, we're maintaining a full-time job or going to school full-time while training for our sport. While in Europe, and even Canada gets between, I think, $2,500 to $3,000 a month to train. So we're training while going to school or raising families or having full-time jobs. And so we're just not able to compete, train the way we want to. This can't be our full-time jobs and have a lifestyle in the United States. And so people have figured out how to supplement it in different ways. We're still doing well, and we're still, we're the only country in the world that had both men and women on the podium in Tokyo, and we both medaled gold in Rio. So we're doing really well, but we don't have the funding that everybody thinks we have.
Hey, let's take this a step further. I was looking at the NWBA website and, trying to delve a little bit deeper into the two different teams, that being the men's and the women's team. And it seems to me, fairly or unfairly, that the men's team has quite a lot of, promotion to it. And I had a more difficult time really discovering what it was that was happening as the future moves on with the women's team. So giving the NWBA, some kind of a report card grade, how do you think they're doing in terms of promotion of the sport, and maybe even in particular promotion of the women's side of the table?
Well, we've come a long way than where we started a couple years ago. The women's is always a challenge. I think women's sports is a challenge on the able-bodied side and the disabled side. I don't think it's just a disabled situation. I think it's able-bodied as well. I think the NWBA, I'll be completely honest, I don't think people understand that we are running with 1.5 full-time staff people for everything that we do. We have not a lot of infrastructure, and we're working on that, and we're doing the best that we can to move this forward. Like, as the president, it's now been put on my shoulders to kind of help this organization move forward. And our social media and our media is one of the things that are lacking because of other things that we're trying to do. We haven't done, as an organization over years, we haven't done a good job of retaining the history of our sport. There's a lot of stories, and I think this is true about all adapted sports and para sports. All of us have all these great stories to tell, but where are they recorded? Where can we all go and find information about what all the great things people do? And I feel like we're just like storytellers. We pass down our stories to the next generation and hope that they remember us and keep us alive. We've been working with the University of Illinois, University of Texas Arlington for both having a disability sports library. I know U of I has one that most people know about. UTA is doing a better job and digitalizing everything, so we're partnering with them to get some of the videos and everything. And as people, pass away, we try to capture their stories or right before they pass away. But it's a challenge, right? Like, where do your resources go? Do they go to your teams? Do they go to maintaining your history? Do they make social media? Like, there's so much these days, and it's the infrastructure for parasport and adapted sport just isn't there. We still, I don't know about you, but there is a segment of my population that knows what I do every day in sports, and then there is a segment of my population that that have no clue that this even exists, even though I'm present in their life and educate them.
Oh, no, exactly. I understand exactly what you're saying. So, Darlene, speaking of the personalities in the sport, Who are some of the emerging stars on the women's side of the table going into Paris 2024?
Where Lindsay Zerberg is, one of the ones that started finding her spot in the 2020 Tokyo team. So she's one of our up and coming. She's a 2.5. We have, Rose Hollerman is always going to be there right now. She's just a dominant female in our sport.
A steady.
Yeah, she's just one of those women that eat, sleep, breathe wheelchair basketball. She's done amazing things for our sport. She was Spain last year. I think she's in Germany this year. So those are the two really big ones. Natalie's coming back. Natalie Snyder will be coming back for her 5th Paralympics, so we'll have another veteran. You got Courtney Ryan as our other 2.0 that has started to put a face out there. We have Bailey Moody and Exalt Gonzalez. And Exalt is one of our younger ones. She started her freshman year in Alabama, and she's going to be a force once she is getting her confidence and finding herself. But, she was, 16, 17 when we took her to Tokyo. So, people growing up still.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. So lastly, I can see that you really have embraced your work with the Junior Mavericks. What does it mean to you to be a mentor to these kids growing up and seeing how they may develop into, who knows, the future generation stars?
Yeah, so I live in the motto, you give more than you take from the sport. The reason why I'm where I am today is because people gave to me. It was a really I got hurt when I was 4 years old, and I started sports when I was 7. It changed my life when I found it. It gave me a community and a support system that I would have had, and I just know how important that is, especially in today's society with social media. We have the bullying and all of this stuff. The kids need to find their place. So if nothing else, I wanted to be a role model that just said, here, you could be an adult in a wheelchair. And sports is your tool, right? You don't have to do sports. You don't have to do it all your life. You don't have to do it at the highest level of Paralympics. But, you're an athlete. The more you could stay active in the sport, the healthier you are as a disabled individual and the longer your life is and just the better quality of life. So for me, it was more of a, I hope that you become a Paralympian and live all the dreams or do whatever you want. But if you just want to do rec ball, that's totally fine. But I want you to find a healthy lifestyle. We have a little 3-year-old and 4-year-old that just started with us, so that's pretty fun to see them at that young of age. But it's also more important to see what it does for the parents. In the community of disability, it's not necessarily those that are disabled that are the problem. It's those that surround us that feel like our life is just not worthy, or it's so much worse than we think, we're living it. Yet they're not living it, so they don't know that it's really not as bad as they imagine it to be. And so when the parents get to talk to each other and share resources and doctors and just have a different strategy of raising their child other than the poor me attitude, it really does change the foundation of their lives. And so for that purpose, that's why I do it. And if you stay in my program 3 years or 20 years, you're always welcome, and people leave and come back, and we're just always a solid place that people could come to when they need it.
That's so great, Darlene. Hey, listen, you've got 2 Paralympic medals, a bronze and a gold. You've been on 3 teams. I want to thank you very much for your insights today. Have a good one, Darlene.
Thank you. You too.